But when I come here, I tell my story. When I come here, I tell my story. Because I had his divine association. Tremendous amount of his association. So I always feel so happy to be blessed to come in front of his divine Vyasasana.
Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj ki jai. Shri Bhakti Rakshak shiksha all the Gaudiya Math Vaishnavas. Shri Sridhar Maharaj ki jai. Shri Sridhar Maharaj, the protector of the guardian of devotion. His name is Bhakti Rakshak. Bhakti Saraswati gave him because he is the protector, the Rakshak of Bhakti. Gaur Premanande. So thing going on.
Yes, very good.
I'm bringing them, this is their last day. Tomorrow they leave to go back to Vrindavan.
So Armenia or Vrindavan?
Yeah.
Then you have to go to Armenia.
No, Georgia. Georgia and Armenia next
It's
to each other.
close.
Yeah. But I'm bringing them, they wanted me to bring them. They like Chaitanya Saraswati Math very
Yeah.
much. And so I'm going to go there now with them and go upstairs and tell them how I met Srila Sridhar Maharaj. So
Yes, very good.
that's what I'm
My
doing.
father was disciple by Sridhar Maharaj.
Yes, yes.
Yes, it
They
is.
have some supriti.
Yeah. Okay, Maharaj. Nice to meet you. Very good.
You know the names of these deities? Do you know their... पुजारी जी हमको डोर बंद बंद बुझे हाँ कोথায় So, in 1979, this was my first darshan with Srila Sridhar Maharaj. I'll tell more after we go inside. But, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, I came up the stairs just like we did now. It was like about, I don't know, like 7 o'clock in the evening. We came from Mayapur. And it was my first time to personally meet Srila Sridhar Maharaj. My godbrother, Subhag Ramachari, at that time, now he's sannyasi, he had been many times to see Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and he informed me that Srila Sridhar Maharaj has this temple, this mat. So I wanted to personally meet Srila Sridhar Maharaj. So I told him, bring me there. So we came the next day, and it was dark in the evening time. And also it was summer. It was very hot at that time. I don't know what month. It could have been any, like, I don't know. It could have been April or one of those months. May. This is the summertime here. So it was very hot weather. But in those days, and even now, sometimes the electricity goes off. But in those days, most of the time it would stay off for hours. So when we came through the front gate, then Subhag informed to one of the disciples that we had come to see Srila Sridhar Maharaj. And so, yes, so then yes, he said Guru Maharaj is upstairs, he's lying down. So we came up these narrow stairway that we just climbed. And I actually don't remember whether it was there or here. But probably it was here. Some kind of skvoznak. Up the stairs. And immediately we saw Srila Sridhar Maharaj, even though the electricity was off. But there was some moonlight, and there was also a lantern, kerosene lantern, next to his bed. And he was lying here on his back. At that time, Srila Sridhar Maharaj was late 80s, maybe 88, 89, like this. So we came, and when I came up the stairs, Srila Sridhar Maharaj was lying with his head over here, just on his back. And there was a disciple who was fanning him. The disciple was fanning him. Because it was hot. And there was no fans, no electricity. So then we came, and immediately I paid my obeisances right here. And then I sat up right here. I sat up. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj's head was directly here on the bed. And I'm sitting down. So I'm practically right next to his lotus mouth. He's lying there, and I'm this far away. And I'm here. So then Subhag Prabhu, he stood in front of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and he spoke to him in Bengali, informing him that we had come from Mayapur and that he has brought his American godbrother to see you for the first time. That's what he told me, to see you for the first time. This way, Srila Sridhar Maharaj spoke to him not more than 1 minute, maybe 1 minute. And then, as he was lying down, he began to speak the most sweet, nectarine, flowing Harikatha from his lotus mouth. Very first time I heard his voice, everything. Open. He didn't even open it. So as I already told, I'm sitting right here next to him. I'm sitting here next to him. And I'm just this far away from his lotus mouth. And he simply began speaking the most beautiful, sweet Harikatha. And I don't really remember exactly what he was saying, but he was talking about the holy name of Krishna. I do remember that. And it may be that he was quoting this very famous shloka of Srila Rupa Goswami, where Srila Rupa Goswami has told that Tunde tandavani ratam vitanute tundavali labdhaye. Karna krodha gatayate. So, Srila Rupa Goswami was describing in that shloka that I do not know how much nectar is there in the two syllables, Krishna. Two syllables, Krishna. I do not know how much nectar. Rupa Goswami is telling me. Why? Because when I hear these two syllables, I become so overwhelmed that I want to have millions of ears to be able to hear the nectar of the syllables, Krishna. Then he said, when I pronounce these two syllables, Krishna, then he said, when my tongue pronounces the two syllables Krishna, then I want to have millions of tongues. Millions of tongues. And then in that shloka, then Rupa Goswami says, and then when the holy name of Krishna enters into the courtyard of my heart through my ears, then all my senses, they become inert. They become overwhelmed. Then Rupa Goswami says, I don't know how much nectar is in these two syllables, Krishna. Where'd she go? I don't know how much nectar is in these two syllables, Krishna. Come over here.
Pujaris can.
Anyway, Srila Sridhar Maharaj was lying there, and I was so near to him, to his head, and this vibration from his lotus mouth was entering into my heart, and that was a very powerful experience. Very powerful experience. Even though he only spoke not long, maybe it was like 10 minutes, 12 minutes, and he's just lying there, completely absorbed. So then at that time, he told us that now you should go downstairs and you should take some prasadam and you should begin to return to Mayapur. But you should come again in the morning time. And then when you come in the morning time, I'll be able to sit with you for a long time and talk. So after that evening, first darshan, then as we went back to Mayapur with the rickshaw and the boat and everything, then I was feeling like, wow, what amazing experience I just had. That I've met a pure devotee who's on same level as my Guru Maharaja, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And it really deeply affected my heart. And so I told Subhag that it'll be very good if we can come again in the morning. So I think either the next day or the day after, we came. And when the Pujari arrives and opens up this lock, then we will be able to see the very place where I sat in front of him on his chair. He was sitting there on his chair. That chair is one of the highest, most exalted, transcendental reminders of Srila Sridhar Maharaj. His paraphernalia, his bed, his chair, but that chair especially, because he sat there and spoke hundreds of hours of Harikatha. Hundreds of hours he spoke.
And also we'll see the backside where they used to set up a bed with pillows and mattress, and he would sit there also. And devotees would sit all around. So this is my first experience with Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj. And that really began my journey to his lotus feet, even though I was already so much desiring to meet him.
Dhanyavad, Hare Krishna. Do you have a chair I can sit on?
Yes, that chair you can sit.
No plastic chair?
Yes.
So now everyone come and we will pay obeisances first to Srila Sridhar Maharaj's transcendental chair. Here on this chair, like you see in that picture, that bottom right hand picture. He's sitting on this chair. And this is his bedroom where he used to sleep and do his Bhajan Kutir. So when we sat here with Srila Sridhar Maharaj was sitting. They had some pillows behind him, so he was sitting more close. This is almost like if he wanted to recline a little bit, this chair was designed so that the chair could also recline. So his lotus feet were right here, and we sat right here. Subhav and I, we sat right here in front of Srila Sridhar Maharaj. And now he began to speak Harikatha. Also, we had an opportunity to ask some questions from him, like that. But he spoke for at least about 1 hour. At least 1 hour, maybe hour and a half he spoke. And that was really a very powerful experience. To me, it was a very unique opportunity because when our Srila Prabhupada, my Guru Maharaj, was on the planet, very few devotees had opportunity to just come and have his direct association and his darshan like that, because there were already many hundreds and then eventually many thousands of disciples. So we didn't have the opportunity to have one-on-one a relationship with Prabhupada in those days. But now I'm sitting with the person that Prabhupada personally said and told that he's the only other person besides himself. There are only 2 people on the planet who are qualified to write purports to the Srimad Bhagavatam in the English language. That's what he told. Myself and my godbrother Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj. He spoke this. My Srila Prabhupada told this, and then that was transcribed and it was put in, and all the devotees throughout the world, they could understand who is this person, Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj. So in this way, it was a very great blessing, tremendous blessing for the whole world. For the whole world, the devotees throughout the entire world, for them to have the opportunity to come here to Navadvipa, Mayapur, and to have the association of such a divine, exalted personality on the same level as our Srila Prabhupada. It was really astonishing. And that he would be here by himself, and we could come and we could sit in front of him and we could have
exchange with him. We could hear from him all about his realizations, because this is what Srila Sridhar Maharaj was always doing. Srila Sridhar Maharaj was actually always expressing his realizations. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj's realizations were so unbelievable. Actually, there's also pictures of my Prabhupada sitting on a chair here next to Srila Sridhar Maharaj. There are pictures of that. And speaking with him. My Srila Prabhupada came to visit him from time to time. And actually Srila Sridhar Maharaj is, my Prabhupada told that he accepts Srila Sridhar Maharaj as his shiksha guru, as his own shiksha guru. So what kind of exalted personality that even a person like A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada could accept someone as his shiksha guru. So what to speak of us? So this was an astonishing thing to me, that I was able to hear directly from the lotus mouth without any other devotees around, and to look at his divine lotus face, and it was just so sweet. It was so sweet. Now, there's a lot of history, actually. And some of you were present in Vrindavan, and you heard me speak on his appearance day during Kartik that one time. Long, I told many histories, and about Srila Sridhar Maharaj and about my relationship with him. So that was 1979, and those two times, out here and also here. Then there was a third time that I came a few days after the second time. Then I came on the third day, and I brought a devotee who had just arrived from America. I didn't know him well, but he was a disciple of Prabhupada, and he was trying to study Sanskrit language. So he had heard about this personality, Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, and he wanted so much to meet him. So I said, well, I have gone to see him. If you like, I can bring you to him. So then I did that. I came here, and again, Srila Sridhar Maharaj was there on that day, and we sat here in front of him, and we had such nice, wonderful Harikatha hearing from him. And I remember, after about an hour of his speaking, then Srila Sridhar Maharaj made a comment. Srila Sridhar Maharaj made a comment to us, to me particularly, because Srila Sridhar Maharaj had heard that even so early as 1979, which is basically like 1.5 years after Srila Prabhupada departed from this planet. But already by that time, the ISKCON governing body commissioners, the GBC, I was told by Subhag, that they had made some not a GBC resolution, but it was more or less kind of like the GBC were giving the instruction in general that no one should come to see Srila Sridhar Maharaj, only the GBC members themselves should come. When I heard that from Subhag in Mayapur, before I came that evening, it was the day before, and when he told me that, I said, I'll never accept that. I will never ever accept that they should come? I've been a brahmachari for 9 years. How senior are they? What is their right that I cannot come to see the very person who my Guru Maharaj told directly 2 years before he left the planet that he's the only other person that can write the purports to the Srimad Bhagavatam in the English language, myself and my godbrother Sridhar Maharaj. Okay, and then in 1977, when my Srila Prabhupada was in his final days,
And I was very fortunate to be there for about 6 weeks before he departed and went into Samadhi. So every day I was coming into Srila Prabhupada's room. Every day I was chanting for him with a small group of devotees with small kartals. Prabhupada wanted that Mahamantra should be chanted in his room, in the background. And he was only lying on his bed, on his back, lying on his bed. So at that time, also, when the ISKCON GBC members came, there was a few of them, not that many, when they came and they approached Srila Prabhupada in this condition. They approached him and they expressed to him that Srila Prabhupada, it appears that perhaps you will be leaving this world. And we really want to know from you, is there anyone who you can directly recommend for us to go to after you depart from this world, that we can approach for guidance and like that, spiritual help? And then at that time, Srila Sridhar Maharaj told very straightforwardly, yes, you can approach my godbrother, Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj. So I knew all these things. So 1975, 1977, and now 1979, I'm living in Mayapur, and I get to directly meet Srila Sridhar Maharaj for the first time. But then I'm hearing that, oh, they've made a rule that only GBC should come to hear from him, should come to see him. And I just absolutely rejected that so-called instruction of the GBC. Okay? Absolutely rejected it. Told Subhag, I'm going to see him. So that's how I ended up coming here. Even though the GBC already were telling no one should come except the GBC. But of course there's a unfortunate and inauspicious history of how the GBC members, even after coming to him many, many times, persons like Tamal Krishna Maharaj, very well-known sannyasi, disciple of Prabhupada, and other senior sannyasis, they used to come in 1980. They were coming here many, many, many times and having darshans with Srila Sridhar Maharaj. I was very fortunate to get the, and in those days, we had these cassette tapes that were audio recordings, okay? And so these cassette tapes were 90 minutes, that's 1.5 hours each. So there was about 40 cassette tapes that a devotee gave me, right? Of Srila Sridhar Maharaj's interactions with the GBC members and how he was speaking this amazing, amazing Harikatha to them. This was after I had left, after I had left India, and I went back to England actually. And in that year, now already many devotees were coming to hear from Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj. They're coming to hear from him. So I also was very anxious to hear from him, and now one devotee gave me these 40 cassettes, 40. And when I started to listen to that Harikatha of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, which he gave to the GBC members who came and sat with him, I became overwhelmed, actually overwhelmed. Hour after hour after hour, day after day, week after week, I was listening many, many hours every single day to his Harikatha. And I realized how exalted he is. I already understood from 1979. But in 1982, the GBC, that's a whole long story, which I'm not going to tell right now, but they decided that they should ban Srila Sridhar Maharaj. Imagine, Prabhupada himself invited him to come and live in Mayapur with him in the same house. And now they, after the disappearance of Prabhupada, are literally voting amongst themselves that this person, Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, should be kept away. He should be banned. And anyone who goes to him to hear from him, any disciple, they're also banned from ISKCON. So just imagine what horrible, horrible, inauspicious things happened at that time. But I was diving deep in the nectar, okay? And I was not going to let anything like the opinions of the GBC members have any effect on my spiritual life at all. So I began to aspire to go and to see Srila Sridhar Maharaj again. This was around 1982 when he was banned. And for the next couple of years, I continued with my service in ISKCON and so forth. At that time, I was in Grihastha Ashram. And then I was confronted. Because although I hadn't gone to see Srila Sridhar Maharaj again physically yet, but I was listening to all of his katha. And my whole mind and heart was becoming more and more disgusted with the fact that they had banned such a personality and banned anybody who goes to see him. I knew this very well. So the so-called GBC guru of that place where I was at the time, I'm not even going to mention names, but that GBC guru, he confronted me. And he was asking me in England, in the Bhaktivedanta manner, well, what's your plans now? Guru Kram, that was my initiated name from Prabhupada. What's your plans? And I told him straightforwardly, I said, my plan is that I'm going to collect money during this winter period, and then at around Gaur Purnima time, I'm going to go to India, to Navadwipa, and visit with Prabhupada's godbrother, Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj. I told him very straightforwardly. He was sitting here, and I'm sitting here. He had his desk there, and then he just stared at me. He didn't speak anything. He just looked at me. And then he and another so-called sannyasi, they tried to convince me that I was wrong, and that I'm going down the wrong pathway. They tried. That didn't last very long. It only lasted a few minutes, where I wouldn't accept what they were telling me. And then he got up from his chair. He began pacing back and forth in the room there. And he said, you know, Urukram, you're making a very big mistake. Because I wanted that you would come here to my zone, my GBC zone. And actually because he was the person who started the temple where I joined in 1970. Okay? And so we had a relationship. But now he said, you know, you have now returned again after many, many years to be in my zone, England and like this. And I was expecting that we would have this long-term preaching relationship together. But now what you're doing, you know what it means? You are not going to be able to visit any of our temples anymore. You are not going to be able to speak to any of our devotees. You are not going to be able to speak to any of our life members of ISKCON, or any of our new people, we called it folk members, friends of Lord Krishna. And he told me like that, as he's walking back and forth in the room. So that was, of course, I understood that that's going to happen. I understood it. But still, it was a shock to me. I had been a devotee for 14 years at that point, and I had only done service after service in different parts of the world in ISKCON. So I was also brahmachari for 10 years. And now he thinks that he has the right to ban me? Oh, he could give an institutional ban, but could he ban me from my relationship with my beloved Srila Prabhupada and with his society? No way. But anyway, he forcibly told me like that. And he said, in the future, you're going to regret this, he told me. You're going to regret this. You're going to find yourself so far away from Srila Prabhupada. So anyway, that was the end of the conversation. I paid my obeisances, I got up. They even followed me down the stairs, to make sure that I was leaving the temple into the parking lot. So what I did was, I went there, and someone gave me a ride in their car to the nearby metro station, and I took the train down to London, and I went to the temple of Srila Sridhar Maharaj that had been started in Blackheath, near Greenwich Park in London. And it was like 10 o'clock at night, and then I rang the doorbell, and a devotee came to the door, and I said, well, I've just been banned from ISKCON. And they said, well, come in, welcome. And from that point, I went on Harinam Sankirtan with them many times. I was a householder. I lived 2 hours drive from London. So I would come and go, like that. And then, after a couple of months, then I made my ticket and brought my family with me to Navadvipa, to this very place. And I stayed here for 6 weeks with Srila Sridhar Maharaj. Now in that time period, Srila Sridhar Maharaj's health was also sometimes not very strong at all, and he couldn't speak on certain days. But anyway, just to be here, even though he spoke a number of times, but not every day, just to be here in this mutt with his divine presence here was so powerful, so powerful. So this created within my heart a very, very deep impression and samskar of, I fully surrendered at the lotus feet of Srila Sridhar Maharaj. And although I didn't have a lot of physical association with him over all these years, but I associated with his Vani all the time. I associated with his transcendental Vani, his instructions. And to this day, his instructions are so deeply embedded in my heart. His Harikatha and everything about him. So Srila Sridhar Maharaj is my second guru. And I came to see him one last time in 1988, in January of 1988. It so happened that I was able to come to India because a godbrother paid for my ticket, and he gave me money that he was collecting for building Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj's temple in Seva Kunj, Shri Rup Sanatan Gaudiya Math. And I delivered that personally in Mathura at the first Keshavji Gaudiya Math, and I met Srila Narayan Maharaj personally. This is before I came here. I only stayed there for 3 days, and then I came here and was here for 1 week with Srila Sridhar Maharaj. Then I had to return back to America. But his health was not good. Also, I think it was the disappearance day of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. We celebrated, and Srila Sridhar Maharaj came out and sat in that chair right there. He sat there, and he spoke only for 5 minutes. He wasn't well, and then he said, "Oh, Govinda Maharaj, he will finish the Harikatha." So that was the last time that I saw Srila Sridhar Maharaj in January at that time. But it was the first time that I met personally my Shiksha Guru. My Shiksha Guru actually appeared on the evening of the disappearance of my Diksha Guru, Srila Prabhupada. That very evening, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj came to the Krishna Balaram temple after Prabhupada had departed, and then he stayed the whole night in the temple room with all of us doing kirtan all through the night. Then the next morning we went on parikrama to the main temples and carrying Srila Prabhupada's transcendental body, carrying him on a palanquin. For 2 hours we went. Then we returned back, and they had already, the whole night they were digging the samadhi pit where Srila Prabhupada would be placed for his samadhi. And Srila Narayan Maharaj personally did his samadhi. I watched with my own eyes. He's the one that wrote the Samadhi mantras on the chest of Srila Prabhupada with tilak and so forth. So, although I didn't know anything about this person, Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj, but we all knew that he was a very intimate friend of Srila Prabhupada's. And I didn't know until years later that he had come to visit Srila Prabhupada twice in those final years. In those final days. In that last month, he came twice to visit. And we started to hear his name, Narayan Maharaj, Narayan Maharaj. So, but then it was another, from that year, 77, until 1988, 11 years, when I came to see Srila Sridhar Maharaj the last time. So that 11 years was the 11 years in which Srila Sridhar Maharaj's katha was recorded for 11 years, and even a little bit before that, but mostly after Prabhupada departed. And we've been told that the total number of hours of his Harikatha that was recorded in that time period was 1,200 hours. 1,200 hours of katha. So in this way, after Srila Sridhar Maharaj departed, then I became more and more connected with Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj, and gradually I began to realize who he is. And that's a long story. I'll have to tell that katha at a different time. But I began to understand that he's also on that level. Like my Prabhupada, like Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he's on that level. So gradually, by Krishna's sweet will, I came into his association, and basically from, let's say, for about 20 years, from 1980 till, let's say from 1990 up until his departure in 2010, that's 20 years. And during that time, Srila Narayan Maharaj began to travel all around the world. He also accepted Srila Sridhar Maharaj as his shiksha guru. He also took sannyas from his Guru Maharaj, Bhakti Rakshak Maharaj, who was the sannyas guru of Bhakti Rakshak Maharaj. Srila Sridhar Maharaj was his sannyas guru. So actually, I took sannyas from Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj. So the mantra that was given by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, Bhakti Rakshak Maharaj, Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj, that was given to me. You see, and a number of others, fortunate jivas. So I have my whole history is connected with my Guru Varga, and I have my connection with them. In my heart, they're sitting, three of them, right next to one another. They're sitting. Prabhupada is in the middle, Srila Sridhar Maharaj is on the left side, and Srila Narayan Maharaj is on the right side. They're sitting here, in my heart. So, I feel myself so fortunate that I've had this very high association practically from the very beginning of my spiritual life, when I became a devotee in 1970. And from that time I had Prabhupada's association many, many times. I had Srila Sridhar Maharaj's, and then I had Srila Narayan Maharaj's association for going around the world with him for 15 years, non-stop. Okay? So I feel that in this remainder of my spiritual journey in this body, in this life, I want to be here in Navadvipa. And so I'm very happy that I have a room at Keshavji Gaudiya Math through which I can see the top of the temple over across the trees. I have the darshan of that. So I feel very nicely protected. Srila Sridhar Maharaj's samadhi is here. Srila Narayan Maharaj's samadhi is there. Bhakti Rakshak Maharaj, Bhaktivedanta Vaman Maharaj's samadhi are at Devananda Gaudiya Math. And Baba Jagannath Das Babaji's samadhi there in Navadvipa here. Then across the Ganga, my Srila Prabhupada's Pushpa Samadhi is there, and the big temple that he's building is there, the temple for Mahaprabhu that will be there for thousands of years. So I feel very fortunate. And also Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Samadhi there in Mayapur, Gorky Shordas Babaji Samadhi there, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur Samadhi in Navadvipa at Swananda Sukhada Kunja temple there, where he used to live. And in this way, all of my Guru Varga, they're all here. And so that's why I love Navadvipa so much. And from the beginning of my spiritual life, this is the first place that I came in 1975. When I came the first time, after being a devotee for 5 years, then I got the opportunity to come here and to be with Srila Prabhupada here for about 1 month total. In Mayapur, then in Hyderabad, and then in Vrindavan. For about 1 month I was with Prabhupada every day. So I was so fortunate, and in this way, I have this connection with Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, in which I feel always so fortunate. And even when I read his books, or I see his videos on YouTube, or like this, his katha is unmatched in a certain way. His mood and his delivery and how he spoke, even in the English language he spoke, it was very unique, very wonderful. It's just such moods that he would express, So amongst all, there are so many elevated Vaishnavas. Yes, there are so many elevated Vaishnavas. And it's very, very exalted pure Vaishnavas in Uttam. There are a number of them also. And I've had their association, Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj and others, So, but Srila Sridhar Maharaj's katha, and all of my gurus, they all accept Srila Sridhar Maharaj as their Shiksha Guru. All of my gurus, they all accept Srila Sridhar Maharaj as their Shiksha Guru. So, in course of time, Srila Sridhar Maharaj's Vani will go everywhere. It's already gone in all the different languages of Europe, German, Spanish, French. They translated his books into all these languages, even Chinese, Russian language. Srila Sridhar Maharaj is known throughout the world, but he never left this place. Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj, his godbrother, very exalted personality. He also accepted Srila Sridhar Maharaj as Shiksha Guru. We have his Vyas Puja offerings that he wrote for Srila Sridhar Maharaj, And one time he says, yes, Param Pujapad Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, he is like a lotus flower in the middle of a very dense forest. He's like a lotus flower, and there are so many forest animals that can smell the fragrance that is emanating from this lotus flower, and they come from all directions to this lotus flower to smell the fragrance. This lotus flower, the example is that this lotus flower is Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj. And then he said, Srila Puri Maharaj said, Param Pujapad Srila Sridhar Maharaj never left his mud practically at all. In his later years, not at all. In the earlier years, he used to go to Calcutta and visit with my Guru Maharaj, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, when he was still in his household life. And he would stay with him there. This was over a period also of 11 years, in the late 1940s and 50s, So he was very intimate. They spoke so much katha together. My Guru Maharaj said that that association that I had with Srila Sridhar Maharaj at that time, Krishna was preparing me. Krishna wanted him to prepare me. And then, prepare for what? To become the Shaktivesh avatar of Nityananda Shakti. To bring the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to the whole world. You see. So, these personalities, I feel so fortunate. I was so fortunate to have his association. and continuing to have his association. His association is not finished just because he left this body. No. He's present. He's present fully in his Vani. And that's why when devotees are reading his books all around the world, I used to travel with Srila Narayan Maharaj everywhere, all around the world, many countries. And in those countries, his translated books were available in their languages, And so many of them, they would tell me how Srila Sridhar Maharaj was so, internally embraced in their heart by hearing and reading his Vani. So my recommendation to all the Vaishnavas who are sincere and serious and they want to benefit themselves by hearing this incredible Harikatha, they should read his books. I'm always recommending they should read his books, and they should start with Sri Guru and His Grace, one of the first books that came out. Another book, Search for Sri Krishna, Reality the Beautiful. Then another, Golden Volcano of Divine Love. And then another one, Subjective Evolution of Consciousness. And then one of the favorite, The Lord's Loving Search for His Lost Servant, which I happen to bring along with me right here, the lotus hands of Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj. This is Sridhar Maharaj himself, personally. You want to meet him? Here he is, right here, in the form of this book. And this book is so incredibly sweet, his Harikatha. Here he is, sitting on this chair. The same picture you see there on his chair. He is sitting. Same picture, same photo. Yes. So, and Srila Sridhar Maharaj told about Gopakumara from the Brihad Bhagavatamritam. And this beautiful painting was painted by a very famous artist in India to depict Krishna and Gopakumar embracing one another. So I'm going to read a few words. What's the time now?
It's 12 p.m.
Okay, we can take a little more time? Yes. So the first chapter is titled Planets of Faith. Where's that chair? So this is from, is it Mahaprashadam from him?
No.
Oh. So I'll read for maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So the first katha in chapter 1 of this book is titled Planets of Faith. Planets of Faith. So Srila Sridhar Maharaj talks about which goes in different levels as it develops, beginning from Shraddha. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj also, he's practically the acharya of the topic of prapanna or sharanagati, surrender. Srila Sridhar Maharaj will talk about this a lot. You can find it in his katha very often. He's telling us in a practical way what we need to do. If we want to attain this ultimate goal of that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has brought to this world, Krishna Prem, But we will have to go through the channel, through the doorway, which is called Sharanagati. You see, Sharanagati. Full surrender, Sharanagati. So here he's talking about faith. So he says faith is the only means through which we can see, we can hear, or we can feel the higher world. It's the only means through which we can feel, see, and hear the higher world beyond this material world. Otherwise, it is all meaningless to us. Meaningless. How we can know the transcendental reality? Only through faith. Faith is the only means. So, to understand that plane, in order for you to understand that plane of reality, then what? Then there is necessary that we have an inner awakenment, that our internal connection will awaken. Otherwise you cannot understand the transcendental. We can connect with the upper world. We can connect with the upper world only through a higher source. Not directly. You cannot directly connect. You have to go through a higher source. And therefore, Divyam Jnanam. Divyam Jnanam, knowledge of the higher plane. This is not ordinary knowledge. It is transcendental knowledge. It is supramental feeling. This knowledge is a feeling, supramental feeling. It is beyond the mind, beyond the intelligence, beyond the senses. But now, to realize this, to realize what he's telling here, what is absolutely compulsory? It's called surrender. If you want to realize it, you must do surrender. Srila Sridhar Maharaj has written his own book called Prapanna Jivanamrita. So that's why I say he's the acharya of surrender. He has given a whole book where it is described the 6 limbs of surrender. 6 limbs of surrender, like our body has 6 limbs. 1 head, 2 arms, 2 legs, and a torso. 6 limbs in our body. Similarly, Sharanagati has 6 limbs. And what he has done in that amazing book, he has collected quotations from all the different shastras. And he has compiled it together in the various chapters, 1 chapter for each of the 6 limbs. 2 introductory chapters and also 2 ending chapters. So the whole book is about Sharanagati. So if we want to realize this transcendental plane, then surrender is compulsory. And after you surrender, then you may go on with hearing, with chanting, with remembering, and worshiping and praising the Lord. You may go on after you surrender in doing that. And rendering so many other kinds of service. You can go on with that. But the first thing, the foundation of devotion, it must be self-surrender. What is that? Self-surrender. It means Atma Nivedana. Atma Nivedana. So he said, before you can actually enter into, you must surrender. Oh, who do you surrender to? Well, first of all, you have to surrender to Sri Guru. Guru is the external manifestation of the super soul within the heart, Sri Guru. And you must associate, you must hear from Guru, then you also have to accept the Guru into your heart. But in order to approach such a Guru, what do you have to do first? Krishna tells in the Gita, Tadvidhi pranipatena. You have to surrender. Pranipat means also surrender. Pranipat. Place your life in front of his lotus feet and surrender. That means that you must fully accept that personality. You must give up your own false ego, that I know so much, this or that, and you should listen with a completely open heart, with great submission to the words of Sri Guru. The words of Guru are also the words of Shastra, and they are also the words of other sadhus. So sadhu, Guru, Shastra. And then you begin to accept that personality, receive initiation and acceptance that he accepts you as a disciple. So that is required. That's called pranipat. And Krishna tells to Arjuna in the 4th chapter, verse 34, I think it is, that, O Arjuna, tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattva darshi. So Krishna is telling Arjuna how he can go on the right pathway. So he says, first of all, if you want to understand and receive this divine knowledge, tadvidhi, vidhi means knowledge. So tadvidhi pranipatena, you have to surrender. Pranipat. Then you have to ask, you have to inquire. Not that you always just ask questions, but you have to be in an inquiring mood when you're hearing. You have to listen very carefully. And you have to inquire very submissively. It's called pariprashna. Pariprashnena sevaya. Pariprashnena sevaya. Inquiring submissively. Pariprashnena and then seva. 3 things. Service, submissive inquiry, and surrender. That's the beginning of Sharanagati. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj says that then at that point, now you can begin Bhajan Kriya. He doesn't use the word, but what it means is now you begin to practice all the limbs of bhakti. Hearing, chanting, remembering and all. Now you can do. Now you're qualified to do. You can do it before you get initiated also, but you must be qualified by accepting the lotus feet of a pure Vaishnava and rendering seva. You must be qualified. So Srila Sridhar Maharaj says, if that is not done first, this kind of surrender, this surrender of the self, then otherwise nothing will be affected. Nothing. Our show of devotion will all be imitation, not real. Imitation, devotion. So now Srila Sridhar Maharaj is giving coaching lessons to us. He's saying we must sincerely feel. We should feel that I shall be faithful in my service to the Supreme Lord. We have to have that feeling. I will be faithful in my service to the Supreme Lord. I am meant for Him. My purpose of my existence is for Him. I am ready to die to live. That term, die to live, he used to use that a lot. Die means this material conception of myself, all the identification with this body, all attachment, everything must die. If you want to live eternally and spiritually, then this external, it has to die in order to live. It has to be ready for that. Here he's telling that the devotee should feel that I want to live for Him only. I want to live for Him only, and not for fulfilling any separate interest. I want to live for His interest, to fulfill his interest. That means Krishna, Guru, Sadhus. And then he said, I want nothing less than the absolute. I don't want anything else. I want that supreme absolute, that personality of Godhead. I want nothing else except him. And I want to belong to him. I want to become his completely, 100%. This sort of intensity, this kind of intensity in our mood is an indispensable necessity for a devotee. So that's why Sharanagati, it's indispensable. A devotee has to conceive, the devotee has to conceive and to feel. We must do that we are meant for Krishna. We are meant for Krishna, for him. He, the devotee, is not an independent entity from Krishna. We should never think like that. He is dependent on Krishna. He's not independent, he's dependent on Krishna, who is the highest absolute center and nothing else. He is the supreme absolute center of all existence, nothing less than that. So, to identify with the interests of our family and our society or our country, this is called extended selfishness. Extended selfishness. It's also selfish. My. So to identify with those interests, our family, our society, our country, this is extended selfishness. But all false identification must be eliminated. It must be eliminated. We must be neither selfish, nor should we be entangled in our extended selfishness. No, we should not be selfish. We should not be entangled in our external selfishness, extended selfishness. My family, my this, my that. So rather, all sorts of foreign contamination, it must be eliminated from our conception of self. All outside demands must be cancelled. And then we shall feel in our innermost hearts that we are connected with the whole of the infinite, of the absolute. All outside demands must be cancelled. Only then we shall feel our innermost hearts that we are connected with the whole of the infinite, the whole absolute, and nothing external is required for our success. This only thing required of us is that we dismantle the ego's cover, the covering of the ego. We have to dismantle that. The ego, it is collecting some foreign elements. You know, we have the subtle body. Mana, buddhi, ahankar. Ahankar means the ego, the false ego. So this ego is collecting some foreign elements. But that foreign collection box, it must be dissolved, it must be finished. And then in our innermost hearts, we shall find our connection with the fundamental plane of loving service to the organic whole. So that's what I'm going to read now, because Pujari Ji, Gurudev Prabhu, he is very sincere sevak of Srila Sridhar Maharaj. Many years he was serving Srila Sridhar Maharaj personally. So now he is looking after this sacred Bhajan Kutir of Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj. So I'm so happy whenever I see him. And I want to also always pay my dandavats to his lotus feet. And from time to time I come here, from time to time, with a few devotees. And he's always entertaining. Like the other day, A couple days ago, I think there was a big group. They were sitting here with the other Padmanabha Maharaj. He has my name also. And but when I come here, I tell my story. When I come here, I tell my story. Because I had his divine association. Tremendous amount of his association. So I always feel so happy to be blessed to come in front of his divine Vyasasana and his other Vyasasans, the bed there, the bed here, the chairs here. So what we'll do now is we will pay obeisances in his Bhajan Kutir room, then we will pay obeisances there, then we will pay obeisances to his chair here, and then we will go downstairs. What is the time now?
12:15.
Okay. What time is the artik?
Now studying.
Now starting. Yeah, so we can also go to the artik.
Maharaj, have you seen this picture? I think it's you, and in this picture, and I think
Yeah, that's me. That's me.
Yeah. So
That's me. I'm glad you have this picture because I didn't know. You should send it to me again. Yes, that is me.
It's in this room?
This is this is that room where he was sitting there on that chair, and there was a whole big group of devotees. This was in 1985. Show it to Budev so he can see me from 1985. This I was named Urukramadas at that time, and I'm recording Srila Sridhar Maharaj's katha in front of him. Show it to Budev. That's 1985 when I stayed here for 1 month. I was householder at that time. That's 1985 when I stayed here for 1 month. I was householder at that time. But that's 6 years after I met him first time, 79, here. Personally met. So, Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Astutar Sata Shri Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Swami Maharaj Ki Jai. Srila Bhakti Rakshak Shiksha Guru to all the Gaudiya Math Vaishnavas. Srila Sridhar Maharaj Ki Jai. Srila Sridhar Maharaj, the protector of the guardian of devotion. His name is Bhakti Rakshak. Bhakti Saraswati gave him because he is the protector, the Rakshak of Bhakti. Gaur Premanande. So now we will do obeisances and then we will go down to
Oh, okay.
It was either here or there, with that photo that she showed me. But he used to sit
He's sitting and chanting Swami Maharaj ki lovely We're bringing the scooter is useless. Now it will have some use. Radha Kunyam Givaramaho Radhika Madhavasan Raptu Yasya Prasiti Kripaya Sri Guru Maharaja